Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Ali. It's Thursday night, and I'm just going to do a quick little webinar on teens and anxiety. So I am around a lot of teens all the time. I have 3 daughters, so I interact lots, obviously, with them and their friends, and I see a lot of teens in the office, and I see a lot of times about what people are going through. And so I just wanted to come online and really be quick to share with you a little bit about what that feels like or what anxiety is, and then maybe some tips on how we can kind of get through it. So the world really right now is a whole different place than it used to be. So compared to eons ago when I was in school, the curriculum is shorter as far as the amount of years you're in high school and the amount of time you need to get stuff done. Your extracurricular stuff is way more involved than it used to be, and your social life is a whole other ballgame. So you guys generally are feeling like you're more connected to everybody, but in reality, you're actually more disconnected because there's a lot less personal face-to-face interaction. So generally, phones are the first thing that teens are looking at when they first wake up, and it's the last thing they're looking at when they go to sleep. And so they're spending the majority of their day actually comparing themselves to other people instead of loving the crap out of themselves. And so as we have this information that's coming in all the time, this can build up over time, and our bodies tend to feel that and react in different ways. And a lot of times, and for a lot of teens, that's a feeling of anxiety or overwhelm. So I do have a couple of notes with me just so I don't get too off topic. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between being nervous and being anxious. So nervous is a normal feeling. This is a feeling that comes and goes depending on what's coming up. So it's normal to feel nervous for a test or for a presentation, when you're going to meet somebody new, when you're going on a date, when you're going for your driver's license. All of those things are normal to feel nervous for. And it's okay sometimes to be nervous, because if you're nervous for a test, maybe you're going to, study a little bit more, prepare more to do well. If you're nervous about a big game or a tryout, you're going to practice your skills so that you can definitely play up and play well, or make that team that you're trying out for. The difference between just being nervous and anxious is that anxious is that you get stuck in that state of being nervous. So it's kind of like if I was to let a bear in the room with me here, my body would get scared, and I would go into what's actually called fight or flight, which means I would either want to fight the bear or I would want to get the heck out of this room, which is to take flight away from the bear. And that's okay for a short period of time. And that's what happens when you're nervous. So, when the test is over, when the presentation is over, when the bear leaves the room, my body comes out of that feeling of fear. When my eyes get big and my heart's beating fast and I get maybe sweaty palms, I come out of that after the moment is done. What happens in anxiety is that our body gets stuck in that fight or flight for longer than the period of time that event is happening. And sometimes our body can actually go into that state of fight or flight, even from just thinking about the event. Now, the problem is when we get stuck in that state for too long, it can actually impede our ability to function in different ways. And that's what really breaks my heart, because obviously if kids are struggling and stuck in that stress state, they're having a hard time functioning at school or going out and interacting with others. And that's where we really need to figure this out and try and help. So there's 3 different stresses that can affect our bodies and put us into that stress state. The first one is physical stresses. So those are going to be hormones, growth spurts, sports, different things like that. The second one is chemical stresses. So this is what we're putting into our body. So food that we're eating or lack of good food, if we're not drinking enough water. Alcohol, drugs, these are also going to be chemical stresses that we're putting into our body. And the last stressor is emotional stresses. So again, this is what we talked about at the beginning, right? So having all these commitments to school and sports and family and friends, this is usually the big one. So if you think about all these different stressors that maybe your body's under, which is taking the biggest toll on you, and usually it's that emotional component. Now, our bodies and our nervous system are really good at adapting to these stresses and being able to function. But what happens is it's like a meter, and when our body has too many stresses on it, then it does get to a state that it just can't deal with it anymore. So it's kind of like if you've ever had your computer open and you have too many tabs open, and then all of a sudden you just get that spinning wheel and nothing will load or download or open or work. Same kind of thing. Our body gets to the state that it's just got too many stresses and it doesn't function properly. And our body doesn't know what to do with that. And so it perceives things differently and we react differently. So we're just going to go kind of in a little nerd moment for a couple minutes here on how your body works, and that's your nervous system. So your brain is in your head and it's connected to your spinal cord and all of your nerves, and that controls everything in your body. So it's like a really, really smart, fast computer that would work everything in your body. And when it is overwhelmed or it's getting too much information, it can't work properly. And the result is that your brain all of a sudden feels like it's getting all this noise. And if your brain is noisy, then it has a really hard time sending out the right messages. And what comes out is noisy as well. So it's kind of like if you were to eat junk food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, how do you think your body would look or feel? Generally, probably not that good, because whatever goes in is what comes out. Okay, and so it's the same thing. If our brain is getting all this tons of noise, it's not going to be able to give the right outputs, and behaviors coming out. So how does chiropractic follow this, and why is a chiropractor even talking to you about anxiety and stress? A chiropractor works with your spine, and your spine is these magic little bones through your back that house that spinal cord and all your nerves going up to your brain. So when something isn't functioning or moving properly within that, the messages up to your brain can't go properly. So it's kind of like when you try and send a text message and the text message doesn't go through, or a phone call doesn't go through. Same thing, your brain's not getting the right message, and therefore it can't send the right message out. When it can't send the right message out, that might be that something feels wrong in your body. So maybe you get headaches all the time. Maybe you're not sleeping properly. Maybe your immune system's not functioning properly. Maybe you have a hard time concentrating in school, or your mood is different, or you feel like you have these meltdowns all the time. Because if our brain is getting overwhelmed, it can't give the right outputs out. Okay, chiropractors work with that nervous system. We make sure that your brain and your body are talking to each other properly, that all those text messages are getting through, and that you're putting the right behaviors out. So anxiety in teens often looks like a few different things. So we talked already about, if it gets really serious and they have a hard time, trying new things or meeting new people or interacting. But on the lesser side, we see a lot of changes usually with sleep. So you can imagine if your brain is going all day long, well, it's really hard then at night to just shut that off and go to sleep. So oftentimes teens will have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep. And if you're not sleeping well, then when you get up in the morning, you feel pretty tired. Your whole day you're feeling pretty tired and you have a hard time concentrating, and maybe things cause you to melt down a little bit quicker than before. So sleep is a big sign that we see with anxiety in teens. The second one is we see a lot of fidgety motions. So maybe nail biting, licking your lips, constantly bouncing your legs or tapping your fingers. When our body isn't getting the right information, our bodies are pretty smart. So when our brain isn't getting the right information, our bodies try and make up for that and try and send information up to our brain. And they do that by creating these movements like biting your nails or tapping your foot or licking your lips, so that your brain is getting that information that it's missing. Another one that we see in anxiety is that if that computer is not working properly, the messages out could affect other systems. So again, we talked about, if our brain isn't sending our immune system the right messages, maybe we get sick all the time, or maybe we feel like we have that cough or that cold that just never goes away. If it's going to our digestive system, maybe our stomach is hurting a lot during the day, or we're not going to the bathroom properly. Okay, again, if it's affecting our mood, maybe we're struggling, and just not feeling great or being down more than normal. So what are some things that we can do to try and help our body get out of this stress state, this fight or flight? Well, the first one we can do is establish some kind of routine. So our bodies want routine. So if we can get into some kind of routine of going to sleep and eating properly, it's going to like that. Your body's going to appreciate that. So you can try and, go to sleep at a regular time, get up at a normal time, and just get into that routine. The second thing we can do is movement. Our bodies crave to be moving. So you remember back in elementary school when you got those 2 or 3 recesses a day where you got to run outside and move? Now we sit in a classroom all day and we don't move as much. And then when we're home, we're generally in front of a screen. So again, we need to make some kind of effort to move. Some of that might be a walk, joining a team, maybe joining a gym. Finding there's all kinds of apps now on your phone or on YouTube that you can watch videos to just get some kind of workout in. Doesn't have to be huge. Maybe it just has to be, 15 minutes, but get something done to move. And the third thing we can do is getting your nervous system checked. So that's where a chiropractic exam falls into play, where you actually figure out, hey, is my body talking to my brain properly? And is my brain talking to my body properly? Because I see it every day, and I see when we correct that communication that these struggles get better. And so if you have anxiety, chiropractic can help you. Now, I know that a lot of this might be new information to you, or something that you've never heard, but I want you to think about your body and how it's working and where you're struggling. And, you know, there's way too many teens that are struggling each and every single day and stuck in that stress state, and their bodies just don't know what to do. So I hope you take one piece of this information. You can share this video. You can share this video with your parents if you're watching. You can share it with your friends who might be struggling, and maybe just implement something that can help you to function a little bit better and make your days a little brighter. All right, everyone, have a great night.